Roma. Welcome to the Well Vegan Travel Podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here with you today.
Yes, we've been talking about having you on for quite a while now, so I'm so pleased that we are finally making that happen. Before we talk about our topic today, which is like your recent trip to Germany, would you mind telling us a little bit about what it is that you do in the vegan travel space?
Yeah, vegan food is my passion. And whenever I used to travel, I used to get asked, what do you eat when you travel as a vegan? And that sparked this desire to start showing people the vegan food I eat when I go to different countries and cities. And it just turned into doing it full time. So I travel, I eat vegan food, and I tell people about it. And I try and help them. So when they are in that city, they go to my page and they check out where I've been, and they have places that they can add to their list.
I love it. And your Instagram handle, I'm sure you're on other platforms too. What's your Instagram handle?
It's Roma B. And that is
Okay.
actually the same handle on all of the platforms.
Oh, okay. You were lucky you got them all. That's fun.
Exactly.
And how long have you been doing that, Roma?
Honestly, I started doing this as a hobby when on Twitter. My first platform was Twitter, which is really interesting because a lot of people think you start on Instagram or TikTok or one of those. And I started just posting food photos on Twitter. But then I started doing full-time content on platforms like video content 2 years ago.
Fantastic. Okay, great. All right. You travel a lot. You were telling me that you've been traveling so much recently,
Oh, yeah.
which is so much fun. Something I'd love to talk to you more about was a big trip that you recently did to Berlin. What inspired you to visit Berlin as a vegan traveler? What were your expectations before the trip?
Yeah, of course. So actually, that Berlin trip was really special. It was for my birthday. I always have this vision to go to a new city, a new country every birthday of mine. And this year I was like, where should I go? So looked up where the vegan capitals of the world are. London and Berlin came up as the top two. I have been to London before. I had not been to Berlin. So I said, you know what? I'm a foodie. I should be going to another vegan capital of the world. That's what sparked my interest to do Berlin, Germany.
You really do travel for vegan food.
I do. Food is what I center my vacations around for sure.
I love that. I'm sure you did a ton of research before you got on that plane. What were your expectations like? Not just with the food, but with everything. What were you thinking you might be doing during your vacation there?
Yeah, of course. So, because it was coming up as the vegan capital of the world, what I figured was that there would be a lot of renowned vegan restaurants. So, my expectation was I'm going to go and I'm going to have a handful of vegan restaurants to eat at. And we'll talk about it, but it surpassed my expectations because it was more than just a couple of vegan restaurants to eat at or some great restaurants to eat at. It was truly a vegan experience.
I love it. I can't wait to dig into this more with you. And I've also heard that Berlin is a very vegan friendly destination. And I went there myself about, I want to say 6, 7 years ago. I was vegan then and it was amazing. So I'm just sure that it is just become so much better. So, something I'm curious about as a foodie, I'm sure you did your research
Yeah.
with your restaurants. You've only got a certain number of meals, so you've got to make them count. What were there any favorite restaurants or grocery stores or markets that were specifically vegan focused that you would kindly share with the audience here?
Yeah, of course. Funny enough, one of my favorite things to do when I go to a new country is I like to check out the grocery stores because I love to see the new vegan products. I even do that in the US. I go to grocery stores for fun just to look at the new vegan sections. I did the same in Berlin. Actually, when I landed in Berlin, it was the day of my birthday. So what I did was the first thing I did, I went to a grocery store and I went to their local market. It was called Rewe, Rewe. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It is a German word, but it's Rewe. I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, I see this big sign. It says vegan on the side. And I walked towards that cooler section, and it is an entire wall of vegan products. I felt like I just started taking photos, taking videos of everything because I've never seen any of these products before. It was super exciting. And I then started walking around the store more, and I realized every single section has vegan options in it, whether it's chocolate, whether it's milk, whether it was croissants, bread, whether it was literally things like sauces, like pesto sauce. Their pesto sauce is pretty difficult to find vegan in the US. And over there, there's a variety of vegan pestos to choose from. So I was honestly super, super excited about that. But the fun part about all of this was I was staying at a hotel that was in what was called the east side of Berlin. East side is what I was recommended to stay in the area because there's a lot of vegan restaurants in that vicinity. So when I was staying at my hotel, I walked to another rue and it was in express version. So it was maybe 1/4 the size of the bigger supermarket. And when I walked in, I didn't even know this, but then I posted on Twitter earlier that day that I went to Rue and someone responded saying, "Oh, go to this Rue. It's an all vegan one." And I looked up the address and it was the one that I was at in that same second. And I looked around, I was like, "Oh my God, this entire store is vegan." And it was a full vegan grocery store. And it was, yeah, all of the products, the CPG products were vegan. The bakery section was vegan, the hot food section. And then also they have a produce section, which is amazing because there are a lot of vegan stores I've been to, but never one that has produce. So it is a full supermarket.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm not sure if they still have the vegan supermarkets in Germany, Berlin. Do you happen to know about that?
I heard about that brand. So they still sell as CPG products, but I don't think that they have like a flagship store. Otherwise, I definitely would have found it. But the Rue does have a full vegan store right now.
You mentioned CPG products.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so CPG is just consumer product goods. So it's
okay.
literally just products that are like your average cereal, butter, bread, but like the name, the company that makes them as products for people.
Oh, I see. Interesting. You stayed in a hotel, which tells me that you probably ate out most meals. It's fun, like having no choice but to eat out most meals.
Of course.
Which places did you check out? And what are they about? What's the vibe, the price bracket? How would you rate them?
Yeah, no, great questions. Funny enough, the hotel that I was staying at was vegan friendly. It was called the Michelberger. And it was in the east side, like I said, so it was very close to all the vegan restaurants. They did have vegan breakfast options in the morning, which I love. So I would go down, I would start with a coffee and a vegan croissant to start my day. And then I would head out and start food hopping. But I would say that there's just so many vegan restaurants. So when you're walking down this street, there is honestly a restaurant on every other block in the east side. And these are restaurants that don't even have social media presence. Some of them are they're just vegan. There are vegan restaurants, which is crazy because otherwise people go online to look for the vegan restaurants in Berlin. You can just walk down the street and find one, walk in and eat at it, which is what I did. But I will say my favorite vegan restaurants there, it's crazy because I think all of them had like their own charm to them. But if I had to recommend a couple handful, I would say one of them was 1990 Vegan Living. So that is a vegan Vietnamese street food tapas style restaurant.
Oh, that's a lot going on there.
Yes, it's amazing. So the concept of the restaurant is essentially you order bowl versions of what you would get as a full entree at a different restaurant. So that way you get a option to try multiple things on the menu. So the bowls they're pretty small. They're like maybe 5 or 6 bites of food. But normally when you go to a restaurant and you want to share with someone, you get 2 or 3 entrees because of the price points and all of that. But here you can get bowls, which are about €6 each, and you can get 10 to 12 bowls for the table. That way you can try the whole menu, which I love that concept because I'm a foodie and like when I go out to eat, I don't want to order just one entree. I want to try everything, but I can't obviously eat everything. I love the concept. They're affordable. They are fully vegan. My favorite dish there, I will say, is the cheesecake. They have this lotus cheesecake. The lotus cheesecake, I actually went back for a couple of times during the duration of my stay because I loved it so much. I even tried to remake their lotus cheesecake at home for Thanksgiving because I liked it so much.
What made it special? Lotus cheesecake. Of course, lotus is eaten in Southeast Asia. What makes a lotus cheesecake?
Yeah, so it was actually basically in a glass. It was a shooter style. The lotus is referring to Biscoff. So it's a lotus Biscoff cheesecake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, it's not the flour, but it's the lotus Biscoff. So it has like a Biscoff cream with a vegan cheesecake with a cookie crumble under. And you just eat it all in one spoonful, and it's unbelievable. I even had a friend that had recently gone to 1990 vegan living that I hung out with recently, and he said he loved the cheesecake as well. And I was like, we're on the same page. That cheesecake is it is good.
That's so funny. I thought that maybe the cheesecake was made out of lotus seeds or something
That's
like that.
strange.
And I was like trying to imagine it given that it's a Vietnamese style restaurant. But I absolutely love Biscoff as well. And yeah, that would definitely be a choice that I would make. So tell me again the name of that restaurant, please.
1990 vegan living.
Okay, interesting name. Any other recommendations of restaurants that you care to share?
So another restaurant that I really liked was Secret Garden Vegan Sushi. Secret Garden Vegan Sushi is an all vegan sushi spot, and the presentation of the sushi is absolutely amazing. You can get a sushi boat that comes with a bunch of different things to try, and then they do a little presentation. They put some water and dry ice, so it makes this entire smoke explosion, and it's just fun to eat, and the food is great. And funny enough, it's right above that all vegan supermarket. It's in the same plaza. So you can do both in one day, which is great. So I would highly recommend if you're going to Secret Garden Vegan Sushi, you can also check out the all vegan market right under before or after.
Amazing. And what's the price point on that place? Is it like a fine dining place?
So the good thing about Berlin is it's very cost efficient. So anything that you would consider as fine dining and somewhere if you live in the US, that price point is higher. So their fine dining experiences in these nice restaurants are actually very affordable. So yeah, it's not the price, it's not like $4 signs, it's probably maybe two.
Yeah, I'm astonished. Like 15 years or so ago, when I first started coming to North America, I thought it was relatively cheap to dine out. I do not think that anymore. I think it is really expensive to dine out in North America, particularly in Canada, particularly with the tipping. Don't get me started. But it works out as very expensive, even for just something pretty basic. And I'm happy to hear that Europe is good value. Any other great places to share?
Yeah. So I will say another one I liked. Oh, Alcat Zone. Alcat Zone is an all vegan pizza place, and it is German style pizza. So German pizza, I didn't know was any different, but German pizza is when you don't have it pre-cut into slices. So you essentially get the pizza and you cut it yourself and you eat it like you were eating maybe like a big piece of vegan meatloaf or something like that, or like an omelet of some sort, vegan omelet. But you just cut it yourself and you eat it. All of their items are vegan and the pizza is amazing. The owner was so sweet too. I had the chance to meet her while she was there. And yeah, just very unique pizzas. Like one of their pizzas was made with beets, and it sounds off, but it's actually so good. It was healthy, it tasted good. But they also have the classics. They had a spicy pizza too. The spicy one was my favorite. If you like spicy, get the spicy one. Ask them for the spicy one. Very good. They had an affogato that was really good as well.
Oh, yum.
So you can get that full course meal.
Were there any really interesting vegan snacks that you picked up at the supermarket or like special chocolates? Because something that I've noticed in Europe, I was just there in Switzerland a week or so ago, and everything is just so well labeled. And there are a lot of really fun vegan versions of snacks. So was there anything special that was German in the snack department that had a vegan version?
Yeah,
That you can remember?
they do. They do have a lot of great things. I bought, I think, a entire carry-on bag full of snacks back with me.
Wow, you are serious. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I loved all of the options there, especially things that I wouldn't normally be able to get here as accessibly. One thing that they have in these supermarkets are gummies and sour gummies. It's hard to find vegan gummies, and that too, a variety of them, because the gummies do have gelatin and they do have vegan versions of the gummies. I came back with a lot of vegan gummies and candy. Their chocolates as well. They have vegan chocolates. They had this one brand called Vego, VEG.
Oh, I love Vago. We can get it at our vegan supermarket in Vancouver. It's one of my favorite for those that like Nutella.
Yeah, Vego is so good. They have a vegan crunch bar that I got a ton of those to bring home. I got some sauces as well. I got vegan hollandaise. I was able to find vegan hollandaise, which is typically hard to find. I got vegan pesto, I brought back a lot of things, but I think the most interesting fun fact that I learned going to these supermarkets is how health conscious Berlin is as a city, or possibly all of Germany. So I'm only speaking towards Berlin because I only went to Berlin, but they had this concept called a Nutri-Score on all of the packaging.
Oh.
So the packaging had Nutri-Score, which would highlight from letters A through E, at A being the best score, E being the worst score of how healthy the snack is. And the health is measured by different metrics, but essentially processed versus ultra processed versus not processed, sodium, calories, all of that. So it takes into
Hmm.
account all of this different nutritional facts and it gives it a health score that's easy to read from A through E. So I did this fun thing where I was going in the grocery store and I was looking at a vegan option and then a non-vegan version of it. And I was looking at the Nutri-Score and I would find that the non-vegan option would be a D and that the vegan version of it would be like a B. And that just makes it easier because sometimes it's harder to know what is healthy versus not healthy. Marketing propaganda, they're all over the place. So people have these ideas of what's good for them and not good for them. So the Nutri-Score, in my opinion, is great because you just literally look at one label. You're like A through E. Okay, B or C is where I'm looking at to buy today. And you take it and you go.
I'm curious, in that situation, were the vegan and the non-vegan equivalent next to each other? I'm imagining if I was a non-vegan and I picked up the non-vegan one and then I saw it was a D and then I looked right next to it and that was a B, I would probably want to pick up the vegan one.
Yeah.
Was it like that, or was it in its whole section where non-vegans might not find them?
It was a kind of mix of both, so just really depended on the product. For example, if I'm in the vegan section and then there were some vegan yogurts, then they have the Nutri-Score and the non-vegan options would be on a whole other section. But if I'm going into the frozen section, I open up a slide and it's vegan pizza versus non-vegan pizza. I remember specifically that was one of the scenarios. They were right next to each other and it was like a D versus a C. I said, oh, wow, the vegan option is healthier in the Nutri-Score.
That's great. I'd be curious to know what their criteria is. I assume that somebody is telling them to put them on the label and that they have to meet certain criteria. I love this idea of leveling the playing field in regards to healthy eating. That is super, super cool.
Yeah, so there was this one restaurant. It was more outside of that east side that I keep talking about where everything is walkable. It was called Sfera, Sfera. And Sfera is an all vegan restaurant brunch spot. I went for brunch and their food is whole food, plant based, and seasonal. So basically, they look at what different vegetables are in season at the time and they curate their menu towards that, but also just very unique dishes. I did talk to the owner there as well, and she had mentioned she's from Czech Republic and she brought back some Czech flavors and European flavors into the meal and British flavors. And yeah, that food was just unbelievable. I got a bunch of different stuff. She makes her own brioche, and it's
Oh,
hard to
wow.
find good vegan brioche, and it's usually very processed. And her vegan brioche she makes fresh in their restaurants. Love the vegan
Wow.
brioche there. If you like vegan brioche, definitely check out Sfera.
So I love that everything is sounding so positive in terms of a visit to Berlin as a vegan. Were there any challenges that you faced as a vegan traveler in Berlin? Like, for example, I'm thinking about like when I go to Morocco, for example, it can be really hard because there's a lot of donkeys around the place and they're carrying all sorts of heavy weights or things like that. Are there any challenges that you faced?
In terms of challenges, I would say no for the most part because I found Berlin to just be extremely not just vegan friendly in the food, but open minded towards eating vegan food. So most of these restaurants were fully packed, which is hard to see. Right now in North America, I don't know if the vegan restaurants aren't as full. So when I went there and I saw these vegan restaurants had lines outside, you had to make reservations to eat at them. I said, people are actually, whether vegan or not, just eating and choosing to eat plant based for whatever amount of days of the week. And I thought that was amazing. So with that mentality comes the way that you execute your demeanor outside of that. So I found people of Berlin to just be so friendly towards vegans. So I didn't find any challenges really. And also, I just love that the entire city itself was extremely sustainable. The transportation system there is absolutely amazing. So I thought I would have to Uber to get around or walk for the most part, but they have public transportation. They have this concept called the U-Bahn and the S-Bahn. And then they also have a tram that runs. The U-Bahn is an underground subway metro. The S-Bahn is an overground subway metro. And then there's a tram. So just think about that. There is 3 different sources of public transportation. So you can go every direction as much as you want and go from one side of the city to the other side of the city within 20 minutes. And it's extremely cost efficient. I think it's maybe €2 or €3 to get from point A to point B. There was a stop every block or so for one of the 3, if not all 3. So just so great.
Yeah, Europe, it does public transport so well in cities and between cities as well. I wish our countries could do a better job with that for sure. Okay, so Roma, you have definitely sold us on Berlin as an incredible foodie destination. Did you go and experience any of the other cultural or historical things that Berlin has to offer?
Yeah, of course. So between my food ventures, I definitely checked out some of the main sightseeing places that people had recommended to me. So I will say one of them is the Reichstag. It's a tower where you actually just to give a tip to anyone listening, you have to book your ticket in advance online, about a week in advance, or you can go in person and get a ticket. It's completely free, but you just have to show them your passport, and you can't go the same day of. So if you're going in person to book your ticket, you have to do it at least 2 or 3 days in advance. So just a heads up, because I had faced that experience when I went there and I had to book it there in person, but good thing I was in Berlin for a little bit. But essentially it's a big building where you go up an elevator and you get a beautiful view of all of Berlin. It's one of those great spots for photos and just getting a nice view.
Oh, I think I might know that. Is that near Alexanderplatz?
No,
There's like a tower there.
that's the tower. This one's different. This one is similar to, if you've ever been to Hudson Yards, they have the monument there. So you can walk through the inside of it and then get a nice view, but it's also big rooftop and it's beautiful.
And is there a cafe up there like that?
There is a cafe. I did not get to eat at the cafe because that once again was one you had to reserve in advance, which I wasn't aware of. But there is a cafe up there as well.
I love it. Yeah, I remember from my trip to Berlin, I don't remember the names of any places specifically, but my big takeaway from spending like 2, 3 days or so in Berlin was just how much the history of the city really captured my imagination. I remember I was fairly young. I think, how old would I have been? 12 or something when the Berlin Wall came down.
Oh, yeah.
So those images, I still remember those so much. And I remember my mum, that's it. My mum would talk to me about lots of travels that she did in the 1960s, like behind the Berlin Wall. She did some incredible travels then, and just what it was like traveling back then, and what people's attitude was like at that time in terms of you would go to restaurants and no one would want to serve you and all of this kind of thing. Anyway, all of this to say is that I was absolutely fascinated with the history behind the Cold War and the Berlin Wall and everything that happened during that time. And it's really everywhere. You can still see this everywhere, even of course they no longer govern in that way, but it comes down to the traffic crossing lights. The Green Man is like a different style, and then the underground as well. There's often a lot of plaques talking about how the history during this time and how people were like trying to escape to West Berlin through the tunnels and all of the things that they had to do to try and prevent people escaping. And just this incredible idea of like, they just put a wall through the middle of the city, and how people dealt with that, and the family splitting up, and what life was like in the East versus what life was like on the West. I mean, it just absolutely fascinated me, and I found it incredible.
Yeah, no, definitely. Lots of history there. I did check out the Berlin Wall. So if you just put in your Google Maps Berlin Wall, it takes you to that one memorial that is now standing, and it's just remnants of the wall. And there's these little buttons you can press and hear some of the stories of some of the specific individuals and how they were separated from their families. There was one story about a man who jumped through a window to escape, and then his wife ended up jumping over the wall to escape, and how they were getting wanted in the newspapers, but they wanted to be together. And there's just so many stories. It's a lot of history. So if you like history, definitely recommend checking out that Berlin Wall, little memorial there as well.
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm particularly remembering this museum I went to. Maybe I'll see if I can find the name and put it in the show notes. But it was like this whole museum dedicated as to what life was like. And they had these reconstructions of what the apartments were like. And they were really tiny and they had lots of people living in them. And they didn't have a lot of things that the West would have had. It just fascinating.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You are somebody who successfully managed to navigate Berlin for the first time and come out of the other side with some incredible experiences. What advice would you give to vegan travelers who are exploring new cities for the first time? Maybe research that they do beforehand and maybe what they do when they arrive?
Yeah, of course. As a vegan traveler, what I would highly recommend is looking up some of the restaurants you'd want to go to ahead of time, as especially if you're traveling with non-vegans, only because you want to look at that menu and make sure that there are options for you, if not options that you're also interested in eating. And in terms of finding the good vegan spots ahead of time, I would say find your favorite vegan travel creators, because people like myself, there's many of us, and we post vegan food from these cities and have entire videos dedicated to different recommendations for vegan food. And there's great apps out there as well, like Happy Cow. Happy Cow is international and they have a bunch of different vegan restaurants and recommendations throughout their website and their Instagram page, where they very clearly highlight Berlin, Mexico. They'll have the name of the city right on the grid on Instagram. Highly recommend that.
Um, do you have any tips regarding like how to find that content? Let's say, for example, I was planning on going to Johannesburg and I follow you, but you haven't been there. So you wouldn't necessarily have anything to add. So how can I use the search feature on all of these different platforms now in order to find content from travel content creators like yourself?
Of course, you would just go on Instagram in the search bar and type in the city you want to go to and vegan and press search. It'll come up as you can look for tags, accounts, all of that. Just search all. And then you'll have search reels. Actually, reels is even better. Click reels. And then you'll have a bunch of reels pop up. Usually the ones towards the top are most aligned to whatever your search was. So you can click some of those and I'm sure you'll find something in there, because they do put the ones on top that have the highest engagement, meaning they probably do provide the most value. I think, yeah.
That's interesting. Beforehand, I would always search the hashtag vegan Johannesburg, for example, but maybe in recent times, the algorithm has got better and things are classified better. And as a result, we just need to put vegan Johannesburg. That is really cool. How do you manage to enjoy your travels whilst also getting high quality content? Because I might get content, but it's not that great. And I've got Seb in the background saying, oh my goodness, can I just eat? And all of these things. What's your approach to collecting this content when you're traveling?
That's a great question. I feel like at this point it's become my lifestyle, but if I had to take a step back and look at what is my actual model of what I do when I have to make sure I'm enjoying as well as eating and getting the content, is I take it in the most natural way as possible. So I'll have a camera just filming in front of me, just enjoying the food and eating it. So I'm not really thinking into, I need to get the perfect shot or I need to get this or that. I'm just being myself and eating how I would normally eat and making sure the people around me are comfortable with that, which they usually are, and just eat.
So you've just got the camera as you're eating the whole meal?
Not the entire meal. So maybe let's say there's 5 dishes. It'll be for the first couple bites of each dish, and then I'll turn it off.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not just one bite. I film in and turn out. Like, it's more so I want the natural reactions and I want to really tell people how I feel about it. I would say my advice to anybody would just be to keep it natural, as if you were enjoying the meal, and keep the camera rolling and then edit it however you want.
That's great advice. Yesterday, Seb and I were at a Vancouver Christmas vegan market, and I thought to myself, I'm going to try and get content with this. First of all, the light was terrible. Second of all, I took some video of me taking a bite, and I was just so horrified with what I saw. When I played it back, I deleted it straight away. Maybe I just need to try to just keep it going. Perhaps I can capture a tiny fragment of me not hating myself. Do you like to recreate dishes from your travels? into your recipes that you create on Instagram? Have you got any Berlin inspired recipes in the works?
Yeah, of course. So I do like to incorporate food that I have outside and bring that back into my recipe content. So not specifically from Berlin in terms of a video I've created, but like I said, I did recreate that lotus cheesecake at home for Thanksgiving. So things like that in my kitchen at home. But I did recently go to Mexico and I had this one dish and it was a bread bowl with bechamel, which is a French sauce with a poached egg on top. So it was
Oh, wow.
completely vegan at this vegan resort. And I recreated that recently. Actually, it's maybe one of my more recent recipe videos, but it's a bechamel poached egg bowl and it's vegan. I love recreating and bringing some new dishes into my social media.
Oh, I love it. I know you have got a lot of travel planned. What's a trip, an exciting trip that's in your future?
An exciting trip that is in my future. I'm a last minute planner, believe it or not. I will plan things maybe a month or two in advance at most, but I do have a plan for the holidays. I'm going to New York and New Jersey. I do go to New York pretty often, and I love New York. The vegan food scene there is absolutely incredible. So I'm definitely going to be posting some vegan restaurants in New York soon.
I love it. I haven't been to New York for a while, but I've just been salivating over, and I wonder if I'm going to say it correctly.
Anixi.
Yes. Have you been?
I have been to Anixi. Anixi is a Mediterranean inspired restaurant. They have vegan kebabs, different platters, and pizza.
Is it as good as it looks on Instagram?
It is as good as it looks on Instagram. I think all of the food in New York is just incredible. They have a wide variety of like nice upscale vegan restaurants there.
Oh, fabulous. All right, Roma, I want to thank you so much for being on the Well Vegan Travel podcast. Before we say goodbye, can you remind our listeners how they can connect with you?
Yeah, of course. So you can connect with me via Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. I am on all of the platforms, and my handle is at it's Roma B. So ITSROMAB. And yeah, you can look forward to some more vegan food travel content and recipe content for making plant-based food easy and tasty.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Roma. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is incredible. And thanks for doing all the work that you do as well.
Thank you.